The head chef stares in disbelief, questioning Woojin's latest bizarre culinary creation. Woojin stands unmoved, his expression completely unreadable despite the mounting tension. A radiant, unconventional ratatouille sits on the plate, garnished with slices of yuzu. The head chef slams the counter, demanding to know why Woojin ignored traditional tomato recipes. Woojin calmly retorts that yuzu simply tastes superior, further infuriating his superior. The head chef rubs his temples, clearly exhausted by Woojin's constant, stubborn defiance. He pleads with Woojin to stop the madness, acknowledging his world-class knife skills are wasted here. The head chef sighs, patting Woojin on the shoulder and urging him to do better next time. Suddenly, the aggressive chef charges forward, screaming in rage at the perceived disrespect. He bellows, demanding Woojin kneel before the heavenly demon for his insolent, blasphemous words. Woojin reflects on his past life, where the elders would never tolerate such disrespect. But in this modern kitchen, his legendary murim skills feel completely useless and out of place. He remembers the grand halls of the demonic cult, where thousands bowed to his absolute authority. He was the feared heavenly demon, the conqueror of China and destroyer of countless rival sects. Yet his true heart was never in conquest. His only real ambition was to master culinary arts. He presents his latest creation, a bold, experimental red pepper japchae infused with sweet white peach. With a calm smile, he offers the dish, hoping to share his passion despite the cold atmosphere. The others stare in confusion, failing to grasp the genius behind his truly eccentric, unconventional culinary vision. Everything changed in 2011 when the Gate catastrophe tore through the world, leaving countless children orphaned instantly. Tragedy struck again when his adoptive father was brutally killed in a horrific, Gate-related accident. The ruins of the past loom large, a haunting reminder of the life he lost. Woojin stares ahead, his eyes burning with the weight of memories he cannot simply discard. He stands before the fallen beast, a silent testament to the brutal reality of his world. A flicker of doubt crosses his face. Is this new life truly what he imagined? He tosses ingredients into the pan, the sizzle echoing through the quiet, empty kitchen space. Alone in his home, he continues to cook, searching for a flavor that feels like home. The table is set with his experimental dishes, yet the silence remains deafening and cold. He recalls the Murim elders, who once wept with joy at the very food he serves. He holds his chopsticks high, still clinging to the pride of a master chef's true vision. Then the door opens, Seonho returns, scarred and weary, carrying the heavy burden of a hunter. Seonho catches a strange, foul scent. A bad feeling washes over him immediately. Woojin sits calmly, enjoying his meal while Seonho watches him with growing suspicion. Seonho nervously asks if Woojin cooked it. He desperately hopes for a no. Woojin smiles, confirming he made it. He offers a bite to his brother. Seonho hesitates. He figures a simple stir-fry shouldn't be that bad, right? Starving, Seonho decides to risk it. He takes a bite, bracing for the worst. Disaster strikes. Seonho instantly spits the food out, his face contorted in pure agony. His eyes roll back. He feels like he nearly died from that single bite. Gasping for air, he chugs water. What kind of nightmare did Woojin create here? He spots the culprit cherries. The realization hits him hard. This is absolute culinary chaos. Seonho stares at the plate, his face pale as he confirms the cherry-infused culinary disaster. Woojin remains blissfully unaware, praising his own genius for replacing refined sugar with fresh cherries. Seonho retreats to the bathroom, desperate to escape the lingering, nauseating scent of the meal. Woojin reflects on his 6-month journey, wondering why the modern world rejects his legendary, refined palate. He sits in the quiet, questioning how he can bridge the gap between his vision and reality. Woojin pauses, his chopsticks hovering as he contemplates the lack of appreciation for his unique, bold flavors. Behind the shower curtain, Seonho fumes, questioning if his brother has finally lost his absolute mind. The steam rises as Seonho screams internally, baffled by the bizarre obsession with such ruined, chaotic food. Seonho's eyes narrow in the shower, convinced that Woojin's true potential lies far beyond this kitchen. A flash of fire, a haunting memory of the past, reminds Seonho of the danger they truly face. Woojin unleashes a surge of phantom energy, crushing the beast beneath his overwhelming, ancient pressure. He stands victorious over the fallen monster, his eyes glowing with the intensity of the heavenly demon. Seonho watches from the shower, convinced Woojin's hidden potential could easily reach the prestigious S-rank level. He dreams of them fighting side by side, finally avenging their father's death with their combined, awakened strength. Suddenly, the elf girl appears, mesmerized by the complex, spicy and salty aroma of his cooking. She is absolutely ecstatic, claiming this is the second time she has ever tasted such divine food. Woojin is stunned. He never expected anyone in this world to actually appreciate his culinary vision. She praises the simple stir-fry, insisting that the secret to this masterpiece lies entirely in the sauce. Woojin beams with pride, finally feeling understood as he reveals the name, cherry sausage stir-fry. The elf girl devours it, convinced the cherries are the secret ingredient behind this incredible, unique flavor. The mysterious spirit pauses her feast, finally curious about who Woojin actually is. She strikes a pose, proudly declaring herself the spirit of the dungeon chef's secret tome. She reveals her true nature, an item-bound spirit capable of granting massive power through contracts. Woojin's ears prick up. Is someone finally acknowledging his culinary genius behind his back? She claims to hold forbidden recipes that could completely revolutionize this world's bland, ignorant palate. Woojin listens intently as she promises the path to creating the legendary, fabled ultimate dish. The spirit confirms her singular purpose, to finally bring the ultimate dish into existence. She admits that despite searching everywhere, no other chef was ever qualified enough for her. But the tension breaks, she points at Woojin, declaring him the first one to truly qualify. Woojin stares back, stunned that his chaotic cherry sausage stir-fry actually earned her respect. The dish glows with an otherworldly aura, signaling the birth of a true culinary legend. The spirit of Dungeon Chef's secret tome beams, finally finding the contractor she desperately craved. Woojin pauses, confused, pointing toward his brother Seonho's gear as the intended target for this spirit. The spirit tilts her head, genuinely baffled by the suggestion that she belongs to anyone else. Woojin sighs, acknowledging the offer but still hesitant about the strange, magical contract being proposed. Suddenly, the air shimmers as the system interface erupts, confirming the contract has been finalized. Woojin stares at the glowing blue text, his eyes wide as the reality of his new class sinks in. He checks the interface, only to find his access to recipes and quests is completely locked. The former heavenly demon bristles, insulted that his legendary status grants him zero clearance within this tome. The spirit panics, frantically waving her hands to explain that the tome simply needs time to level. The interface reveals his current progress, marking his culinary journey at a humble level 1. To level up, he must master specific recipes or grind through challenging dungeon-based culinary quests. The spirit explains the hard truth: he lacks the clearance because he isn't an official hunter. Dungeon ingredients are locked behind gates, and without hunter status, he's effectively barred from the best. Woojin's eyes light up, the path forward is clear, he just needs to become a hunter. The spirit confirms it. The tutorial tower is his only gateway to unlocking those legendary recipes. Woojin checks his phone, remembering Seonho's words about the tower opening every 3 months. The next day, the restaurant stands quiet, but the tension from yesterday still lingers in the air. The head chef checks his station, wondering if he was too harsh on his talented, stubborn cook. A notification pings, a text from Woojin, and the head chef braces himself for whatever comes next. Wait, he's actually quitting the restaurant. The kitchen staff is in total shock. A massive explosion rocks the city. The gate catastrophe changed everything for humanity forever. People's bodies mutated, granting them the power of mana and the title of hunters. But even with these new powers, nobody understood the true nature of mana itself. Then mysterious towers appeared globally, standing as silent, imposing monoliths of unknown origin. It was confirmed, only those who conquered the tower could finally harness mana's true potential. The tower's interior shifts constantly, throwing lethal, unpredictable trials at anyone foolish enough to enter. This is the tutorial tower, the only place to master mana if you can survive. Despite the death trap, thousands of desperate aspirants flock to the tower every single year. They're blinded by greed, chasing the fame and wealth that only a top-tier hunter commands. Slime cores and fluid, the classic, disappointing loot for any struggling aspirant hunter. Young Tisik screams in agony, his 10th attempt yielding absolutely zero weapon drops. He collapses in frustration, cursing the useless slime fluid and his wasted gold investment. He sprawls out, desperate for a break to recover from his crushing, repetitive failure. He decides to rest for 2 hours, refusing to burn out before the real climb. Suddenly, a voice echoes, someone else has arrived in this brutal, unforgiving trial space. The stranger laughs, mocking the newcomer for daring to enter the tower without proper armor. Woojin appears, looking entirely out of place as the spirit floats beside him in wonder. Woojin marvels at the instant teleportation, finding it far more convenient than any murim technique. The spirit points out his casual attire, realizing he stands out among the armored hunters. 6 months since his reincarnation, and Woojin still feels like a total outsider here. Chaos erupts as slime fluid splatters everywhere, but Woojin remains cool, calm, and collected. He scans the room, noting the desperate, amateurish gear worn by these so-called hunters. A scavenger lunges for the loot, screaming for his partner to grab it first. Woojin barely flinches as the slime dissolves, his mind already calculating the next move. He stands his ground, a lone chef in a den of hungry, aggressive wolves. He sighs, realizing he's woefully under-equipped for the dangers lurking in this tower. The system pings, a notification for new ingredients, and Woojin's eyes lock onto the screen. He stares at the prompt, wondering if this slime junk is actually worth registering. Suddenly, the scavengers surround him, their murderous intent filling the room. It's about to get ugly. Woojin ignores the shouting scavenger, his focus entirely on the mysterious interface floating nearby. The scavengers grow bolder, name-dropping the Wooni vocational high gang to intimidate the newcomer. They demand he drop his loot and leave, completely unaware of who they are threatening. The spirit of the tome looks genuinely worried, squeaking out a nervous, "CH chef." Woojin sighs, swinging his blade with effortless grace, clearly unimpressed by these pathetic thugs. He recalls his days as the heavenly demon, finding this minor skirmish almost laughable. A quick flick of his wrist proves his blade work is more than enough for this tower. The scavengers panic, realizing their target is far more dangerous than they initially assumed. They weigh their options, worried that getting injured now would ruin their expensive, long-term tower run. But the leader has had enough. He screams for his men to surround and crush him. The scavengers dismiss Woojin's blade, confident that their numbers will easily overwhelm him. Woojin observes their formation, unimpressed by their textbook attempt to surround him. He notes their basic grasp of warfare, his hand tightening around his weapon. Suddenly, the brute lunges forward, screaming as he prepares to strike Woojin down. Too slow, Woojin pivots, his blade flashing as he effortlessly parries the heavy attack. Blood sprays as the brute reels back, his nose shattered by the lightning-fast counter. Yangshik charges in a blind rage, desperate to avenge his fallen, bloodied comrade. Woojin doesn't even break a sweat, catching Yangshik's incoming strike with a single hand. With a brutal, fluid motion, Woojin tosses the attacker aside like a discarded piece of trash. The remaining thug freezes in terror, realizing he's completely outmatched by this mysterious chef. Woojin leaps into the air, his blade poised to deliver a final, decisive strike. With a single, fluid motion, he slams his sword down, pinning the scavenger to the floor. The spirit of the tome watches in pure shock, her eyes wide at his sudden intensity. Silence fills the room as the scavengers lie defeated, completely overwhelmed by Woojin's sheer hidden power. Woojin reflects on his past. In the Central Plains, these men would already be dead. But he is no longer the heavenly demon. He chooses to follow this world's modern laws. He turns away from the fallen thugs, his expression cold and focused on the path ahead. Woojin walks toward the tower's depths, the spirit floating beside him as they continue their climb. He registers the slime fluid, watching the interface confirm his new, bizarre culinary ingredient options. He studies the list, already imagining how to transform these monster drops into something truly legendary. The system interface flashes, slime pudding is locked, he needs more progress. The spirit stammers, trying to explain the delay, it's not ready yet. She cries out, reminding him he isn't a formal hunter, that's the real problem. The head chef screams in the background, still furious about his unconventional, insulting cooking. Other hunters mock the secret tome, calling it a death sentence for anyone eating. The spirit insists she searched for ages to find a chef this uniquely gifted. She claims he is the only one in thousands of years with this potential. She is absolutely determined to keep him as her contractor, no matter the cost. She screams at him to never break the contract, causing him physical pain. Woojin asks if he can cook unlisted recipes, leaving the spirit completely stunned. Woojin rejects the status quo, declaring he will forge his own path through innovation. The spirit panics, fearing Woojin is violating their sacred contract by ignoring established rules. Woojin remains unfazed, coldly ordering the spirit to stop her emotional outburst immediately. He clarifies that he never intended to break their bond, despite the lack of access. Woojin shrugs off the system's limitations, showing zero concern for his current restricted status. The spirit is floored, admitting Woojin is the first chef in millennia to defy recipes. Woojin dismisses the praise, turning his back to venture deeper into the dark tower. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Woojin senses a presence stalking them through the stone corridors. He identifies the shadow, realizing someone is watching them from the darkness of the tower. Woojin ignores the threat, calmly collecting slime fluid as if he's just prepping for dinner. Woojin casually snacks on a monster drop, leaving the spirit absolutely horrified and screaming. She panics, warning him that slime fluid is packed with instant, dangerous poison. Woojin just keeps chewing, completely unbothered while the spirit hovers in total confusion. He explains that the initial sweetness was deceptive, but the spicy, bitter aftertaste balanced it perfectly. The spirit is baffled. How is he still standing? She wonders if this is even possible. She suggests that such potent, dangerous ingredients would be perfect for high-end desserts or marinades. She's relieved he isn't dead, but she's dying to know what he's actually planning to cook. Woojin ponders the poison, already calculating how to neutralize it with his internal energy. He ignites his hand with intense heat energy, burning away the toxins in a flash. Then he cycles to cool energy, perfectly solidifying the ingredient into a usable, safe state. Woojin casually snacks on a monster drop, leaving the spirit absolutely horrified and screaming. She panics, warning him that slime fluid is packed with instant, dangerous poison. Woojin just keeps chewing, completely unbothered while the spirit hovers in total confusion. He explains that the initial sweetness was deceptive, but the spicy, bitter aftertaste balanced it perfectly. The spirit is baffled. How is he still standing? She wonders if this is even possible. She suggests that such potent, dangerous ingredients would be perfect for high-end desserts or marinades. She's relieved he isn't dead, but she's dying to know what he's actually planning to cook. Woojin ponders the poison, already calculating how to neutralize it with his internal energy. He ignites his hand with intense heat energy, burning away the toxins in a flash. Then he cycles to cool energy, perfectly solidifying the ingredient into a usable, safe state. Yoon Taesik freezes, his eyes widening as the realization hits him like a physical blow. The future he knew is unraveling. He gasps, unable to process this sudden, impossible shift. He spots the spirit hovering near Woojin and curses his own slow, sluggish reaction time. He rushes forward, desperate to close the distance before he loses his only lead again. Woojin stands amidst the scattered, useless loot, his expression as unreadable and cold as ever. Woojin glances back, his sharp gaze locking onto the man who has been trailing them. He recognizes the stalker, his brow furrowing as he wonders what this man actually wants. Woojin realizes the stranger is staring right at the spirit, clearly seeing what others cannot. He turns away, dismissing the observer with a cold, indifferent shrug of his shoulders. Yoon Taesik stops dead in his tracks, his heart pounding. He finally confirms it's him. Yoon Taesik watches in shock. The floor is empty, and Woojin cleared every single slime. He realizes Woojin is a secret tome contractor, confirmed by the floating spirit beside him. His mind races. How did a mere aspirant land such a legendary, powerful artifact? He suspects a sinister organization is behind this, fearing the reach of those guys. He stares intensely, wondering if Woojin is actually one of the elite, dangerous players. Woojin raises his hands, his calm demeanor masking the lethal intent he truly possesses. Yoon Taesik breaks a sweat, terrified that this mysterious powerhouse might ruin his carefully laid plans. He needs to know why Woojin is collecting monster parts. The mystery is driving him mad. Woojin stands still, fully aware that the tower's no violence rule is just a hollow lie. Woojin starts walking straight toward him. Is a confrontation finally about to explode? Woojin extends a hand, introducing himself with a calm, disarming smile. Jo Seung-jun freezes, his eyes wide with shock and visible cold sweat. The two men shake hands as the spirit watches from the background. Jo Seung-jun tilts his head, clearly confused by the strange situation unfolding before him. He gestures to the scattered, abandoned weapons, questioning why Woojin ignores the loot. Jo Seung-jun highlights the absurdity of ignoring valuable gear in this deadly tower. Woojin admits he killed the slimes, his expression blank and completely indifferent. Jo Seung-jun panics internally, wondering how this guy could be so incredibly suspicious. He doubts Woojin is a professional, as they are usually terrified of revealing themselves. Jo Seung-jun watches Woojin, desperate to uncover the true motive behind his actions. Jo Seung-jun is visibly impressed, assuming Woojin's climb is an absolute breeze. They exchange polite farewells, both eager to get back to their own agendas. Jo Seung-jun's mind races. Woojin isn't one of those guys, but the slime collection is suspicious. He fixates on the hidden piece, fearing Woojin might know its secret too. The terrifying memory of the world's destruction 30 years from now flashes before him. He recalls the miracle of regression that granted him a second chance at life. He is haunted by the fact that he never encountered Woojin in his previous timeline. Could Woojin also be a fellow regressor? The thought sends a chill down his spine. He shakes off the paranoia, forcing himself to believe he is just worrying for nothing. He turns away, steeling his resolve to secure the hidden piece before his plans collapse. Jo Seung-jun watches Woojin, finding the mysterious chef surprisingly amusing and unpredictable. He notes how Woojin kept his distance, only breaking that space during their handshake. Even after seeing the spirit, Woojin's expression remained perfectly guarded and unreadable. Jo Seung-jun concludes that beneath that casual exterior, Woojin is actually quite sly. Woojin stands in the quiet corridor, fully focused on the task of preparing his ingredients. He reviews his haul of slime fluid and cores, deciding he has enough to start. Woojin scans the area, satisfied that the environment is clean enough for his culinary work. He turns to the spirit, calmly announcing his intention to begin the cooking process. The spirit is caught off guard, questioning his sudden demand for a simple cooking pot. Woojin sighs, explaining that he needs proper tools to cook, even in this dangerous dungeon. The spirit suddenly panics, realizing she completely forgot to provide the necessary cooking equipment. With a flick of her wrist, she manifests a glowing, magical portal to summon the tools. A sturdy, professional-grade pot materializes out of thin air, ready for Woojin's culinary experiment. Woojin requests a square mold and a silicone spatula to refine his upcoming masterpiece. The spirit complies instantly, conjuring the requested items as Woojin prepares his workspace. Everything is set, Woojin stands ready, his focus shifting entirely to the slime jelly recipe. He holds the slime core and fluid, explaining they are the perfect ingredients for this dish. The core glows with an inner light, prompting Woojin to consider a unique creative preparation. He decides to chop the chewy core into small pieces, mimicking the texture of boba pearls. The pot bubbles as he boils the slime fluid, carefully neutralizing its lethal, poisonous properties. Woojin pours the vibrant green slime mixture into the mold with practiced, steady hands. The base layer settles perfectly, waiting for the final touch to complete the dish. He carefully adds the chopped slime cores, ensuring the texture will be absolutely perfect. The mixture is still warm, but he knows exactly when to stop the cooling process. He pours the rest, creating a beautiful swirling pattern that promises a complex flavor profile. With a simple tool, he swirls the jelly, crafting a unique design for every bite. He channels his internal energy, flash freezing the jelly to lock in the ideal, chewy consistency. Woojin flips the mold, revealing his masterpiece to the world with a confident, calm smirk. The slime jelly is finally complete, glowing with an appetizing, otherworldly aura of success. The spirit is losing her mind with excitement, but Woojin just tells her to chill. The system pings, signaling the completion of the dish and the start of the assessment. Woojin and the spirit watch the interface, waiting for the verdict on his slime jelly. The result flashes on screen. Slime jelly, grade F. Woojin's heart sinks into his stomach. He stares in disbelief, grade F. He panics, but the spirit tells him to wait it out. The interface continues to process, noting the recipe is registered but quality remains under evaluation. Woojin questions if quality truly outweighs the grade, and the spirit confirms it with a nod. Suddenly, the screen explodes with notifications, A-grade quality, achievements unlock, and he levels up instantly. Woojin is stunned, his eyes wide as the system confirms his massive, unexpected achievement. The spirit is ecstatic, cheering for him as if he just conquered the entire tower. Woojin remains skeptical of the low grade, but the spirit insists A-grade quality is legendary. The spirit hovers, eager to explain the nuances of his culinary success while snacking. Woojin dismisses the formalities, letting the spirit indulge in the treat he just crafted. She happily devours the slime jelly, offering her heartfelt thanks for the delicious meal. The spirit is blown away, praising Woojin for his incredible talent and their perfect partnership. Woojin listens calmly, finally getting the breakdown on how this system actually evaluates his cooking. The spirit clarifies that A-grade signifies high-end, gourmet dining far beyond simple dungeon food. Woojin probes deeper, asking for the distinction between the dish's grade and its overall quality. She explains that grade reflects preparation difficulty, which is why his simple jelly rated low. Points are earned through both metrics, but his exceptional skill just bypassed the usual grind. The spirit celebrates as new recipes unlock, marking a massive milestone for the dungeon chef. The spirit beams with pride, showing off the newly unlocked recipes available for purchase. Woojin studies the interface, finally seeing the fruits of his unconventional, high-speed leveling labor. The spirit watches him closely, realizing his nonchalant attitude hides a truly terrifying, innovative potential. Woojin notes the point shortage, realizing he cannot simply buy his way to the top. The spirit explains the standard path, clearing quests to build proficiency and quality over time. Woojin realizes he completely bypassed the traditional grind, carving his own path through the tower. The spirit confirms the standard procedure, emphasizing that high quality is the key to progression. She admits in awe that no one has achieved level 4 this way in millennia. Woojin confirms he leveled up entirely through creation, ignoring the system's intended quest-based progression. He eyes the dungeon entrance, considering if becoming an official hunter is the final piece. Woojin's eyes narrow, he isn't done yet, there is still so much potential in this dungeon. He refuses to leave, with 2 weeks left he's going to cook until he masters everything. The second floor is a death trap, arrows fly from the shadows, lethal and unforgiving. But Woojin moves like a ghost, he deflects every strike, his blade dancing through the air. The traps here are brutal, designed to crush anyone who isn't prepared for the challenge. Every slime is unique, possessing tricky attributes that catch most hunters completely off guard. Even veterans struggle to survive here, but for Woojin, it's just another day in the kitchen. He's not here to hunt, he's here to experiment. The ingredients are all that matter now. He walks his own path, ignoring the standard rules and forging a legend of his own. The system pings a success, but for the perfectionist chef, it's still just another bitter failure. The spirit is spiraling, questioning how her perfect dish could possibly have a flaw. She highlights his relentless pace, noting he's churned out countless dishes in 10 days. The system confirms his rapid growth, 3 levels and 15 points gained in record time. Woojin stares down, his mind heavy with doubt about his own culinary limitations. He's been scouring the tower for 10 days, but the ingredient variety is hitting a wall. The first floor is just green slimes, and the second floor lacks true culinary depth. He sighs, lamenting that a touch of chocolate would have made his creation truly perfect. The spirit interrupts, praising his talent while gently steering him toward a more traditional path. She insists he must master existing recipes to build a solid foundation for his future. Woojin's lips curl into a faint, enigmatic smirk, a foundation he wonders is that all. Woojin agrees with the spirit, ready to tackle the next culinary challenge systematically. The recipe list glows, but one item catches his eye, the king slime sherbet. He taps the screen, fully committed to unlocking this mysterious high-point dessert recipe. The purchase is confirmed, but the ingredients are still marked as unregistered and unknown. Wait, there's no king slime in this area. Does he have to leave the tower? He checks the system again and finds the drop location is actually the third floor. Good, everything is falling into place perfectly for his next big culinary experiment. Outside, the Seoul City Hall area is swarming with reporters waiting for a third-floor climber. The tension is palpable as they wait for the first person to exit the tower. Unknown guild scouts watch the gate, hoping to recruit a hidden talent before others arrive. Guild scouts linger outside the tower, eagerly waiting to see who emerges first. A brilliant light erupts as Bixialha, the Heavenly Wings heiress, steps out of the tower. Cameras flash incessantly as reporters swarm her, desperate for an exclusive scoop on her performance. She remains composed and cold, flatly refusing any interviews that weren't prearranged. The scouts watch her exit with envy, frustrated by how effortlessly she commands the spotlight. They can't help but marvel at her perfect combination of status, beauty, and raw power. The scouts debate whether a top-tier talent would ever settle for a mid-sized guild. One scout complains about the long wait, dismissing anyone exiting after day 13 as useless. They mock the latecomers, questioning if it's even worth their time to keep watching. But inside the tower, Woojin walks forward, his blade radiating a terrifying, crimson demonic energy. Woojin pauses, his sharp eyes scanning the strange, shifting architecture of the third floor. He notes the layout is completely different from the mazes below. It's a series of rooms. A map reveals the interconnected design, a stark departure from the first and second floors. He spots a peculiar, shimmering entrance that looks nothing like the stone corridors he's used to. They step through and suddenly the stone walls vanish, replaced by a lush, vibrant green forest. Woojin stares in disbelief, a full-blown forest hidden deep within the heart of the tutorial tower. The spirit of the tome panics, wondering if they've accidentally exited the tower into the wild. But the forest is teeming with monsters, strange, colorful slimes pulse on the grassy floor. Woojin shakes his head, realizing this isn't the outside world, it's something far more dangerous. He points to a massive, ancient structure ahead, a slime altar pulsing with mysterious energy. The system confirms the king slime ingredients are here, he just needs 20 points. Woojin doesn't hesitate, he taps yes to lock in the quest for the legendary ingredient. He muses on the system's hidden depth, realizing there's more to this than simple cooking. Suddenly, Jo Seung-jun stumbles into the clearing, gasping for air after a grueling trek. Jo Seung-jun looks up, his eyes widening in pure shock as he spots Woojin standing there. Woojin turns, his gaze sharp and unbothered, acknowledging the arrival of his persistent shadow. Woojin greets him with a calm, friendly smile, though his eyes remain cold and calculating. Jo Seung-jun forces a laugh, playing it cool while secretly reeling from Woojin's rapid progress. Woojin glances around, his expression shifting as he confirms his theory about the hidden loot. Jo Seung-jun's face darkens, he realizes with dread that Woojin is hunting the same prize. Yeon Taesik hides, exhausted but determined to keep stalking Woojin's every move. The spirit asks if he's summoning the king slime, but Woojin wants more ingredients. Yeon Taesik watches, realizing Woojin is farming slimes to prep for the boss battle. The system interface displays the daunting requirements for the king slime summoning ritual. Time is running out, the tower closes in 4 days and the pressure mounts. Yeon Taesik plots to monopolize the boss, while Woojin prepares for a busy grind. Day 12 hits, and Woojin is already carving through slimes with effortless, lethal precision. The spirit cheers him on as he collects a massive haul of monster drops. Day 13 arrives, and Woojin's blade continues to dance, clearing the forest of slimes. Yeon Taesik stares, his eyes narrowing as he realizes just how dangerous this chef is. Day 14, the clock is ticking down and time is running out fast. The tower will seal its gates tomorrow. The final countdown has officially begun. Woojin knows the hidden piece must be claimed now or he loses 3 months. Yeon Taesik watches from the shadows, convinced Woojin is ready to trigger the boss fight. Woojin remains calm, casually snacking on slime fluid while the stalker watches in pure disbelief. The spirit enjoys the snack, but Yeon Taesik wonders if this is some secret ability. He tries to shake off the doubt, desperate to find a way to strike unseen. Woojin's erratic travel schedule is driving the stalker mad, he can't predict a single move. It's a high-stakes gamble, but Yong Tisik has no other choice but to wait him out. He calculates the timing. He only has a 30-minute window to make his move. The altar stands silent, but the pressure is mounting. Can he claim the hidden piece? Yong Tisik's eyes narrow. He knows that hesitation is a death sentence in this tower. He's ready to strike, waiting for the perfect moment to summon the King Slime himself. He's been hoarding the ingredients, and now, the final phase of his plan begins to unfold. Woojin moves forward, completely unaware that his every step is being tracked by a predator. Suddenly, Yong Tisik lunges from the shadows, desperate to intercept the boss fight before it starts. He unleashes a massive, swirling gust of energy, trying to clear the path for his ritual. The altar reacts instantly, pulling in the scattered ingredients as the summoning sequence finally ignites. A blinding pillar of light erupts, and the King Slime descends with a deafening, earth-shattering boom. Yong Tisik shields his face, gritting his teeth as the shockwave threatens to blow him away. The King Slime looms over the battlefield, a massive dark entity crowned in golden authority. It slams down with terrifying force, shaking the very ground beneath Yong Tisik's feet. The spirit of the tome watches, her eyes wide with shock at the boss's sheer presence. Woojin stands ready, his blade drawn and his expression cold, calculating the monster's every movement. The King Slime lunges again, its amorphous body crashing into the earth with devastating, crushing power. Yong Tisik grips his weapon tight, his knuckles white as he prepares to face the beast. He strikes out, his energy surging as he connects with the King Slime's viscous, dark form. A direct hit, the monster recoils, its surface rippling from the impact of his desperate attack. Yong Tisik grins, adrenaline spiking as he realizes his strike actually damaged the legendary boss. He knows the future, but as he faces the King Slime, he realizes knowledge isn't enough. Yong Tisik knows the future is doomed unless he changes the timeline right now. He's been meticulously planning every move, refusing to waste a single second of his time. He maneuvers with lethal intent, his spear lashing out against the King Slime's dark form. He focuses his energy, pushing his body to the absolute limit during this intense training. He channels his mana, coating his weapon in a shimmering, dangerous layer of pure power. He strikes the boss, confident that his current strength can finally crush this legendary monster. He feels the rush of power, certain he is leagues stronger than his past self. He lunges forward, desperate to seize the hidden piece before the window of opportunity closes. He gasps for air, only to find Woojin watching him with a cold, unbothered expression. Woojin observes the struggle, silently acknowledging that his rival actually has some real skill. Yong Tisik observes Woojin's combat style, noting his efficiency and refusal to take direct hits. Woojin conserves his energy, expertly dodging the massive, sweeping attacks of the King Slime with ease. Yong Tisik studies Woojin, realizing his combat prowess is far beyond what his age should allow. He spots a faint, familiar energy radiating from Woojin's spear. Could it actually be spear chi? The energy is still raw and weak, but the technique is undeniably a high-level martial art. Yong Tisik is genuinely impressed, thinking Woojin would have been a valuable asset to his sect. The spirit of the tome frantically urges Woojin to capitalize on the chaos and slay the boss. Woojin refuses, coldly dismissing the idea as an immoral act, leaving the spirit completely baffled and annoyed. He recalls Xianho's past trauma, remembering the bitter frustration of having a hard-earned boss kill stolen. Woojin's disdain extends to the tutorial tower scavengers, viewing their dishonorable behavior as truly pathetic and low. Woojin maintains his distance, prioritizing etiquette unless the situation turns truly lethal for Seongjun. The dark, viscous energy of the King Slime lashes out, nearly overwhelming the struggling fighter. Yong Tisik crouches low, his spear ready, realizing soloing this boss is a brutal nightmare. Sweat drips down his face as he gasps for air, his mana reserves dangerously low. He lunges forward with a desperate strike, realizing this is his absolute final chance. He channels every ounce of remaining power, aiming his spear to pierce through the void. The target is clear, he must secure the hidden piece before his time runs out. Suddenly he freezes, his eyes widening in shock as he spots an unexpected figure nearby. Woojin stands there, calm and collected, having already returned to the scene of the battle. Realization hits like a truck. Woojin has been playing him for 4 days straight. Yong Tisik coughs up blood, his body failing him under the King Slime's immense pressure. He collapses against a tree, cursing his luck for missing the perfect opening to attack. His spear lies discarded in the grass, his physical wounds are far too severe now. He slumps over, finally accepting that he has reached his absolute limit in this fight. Memories of his past failure flood back, haunting him with the weight of his incompetence. He sees the ruined city of his past, a bleak reminder of the world's inevitable destruction. The image of his fallen companion stings, he failed to save her and the guilt remains. He shakes his head violently, refusing to let his resolve crumble despite the crushing despair. He forces himself to focus, knowing that dwelling on past failures only ensures their repetition. He steels his heart, remembering the agony of his past life and pushing for one final stand. Young Tisik's resolve hardens. He refuses to let his past failures define his future. He pushes his body beyond its limits, channeling his life force to keep fighting. He knows that losing to Woojin here means the end of his path to change. But his stamina is failing him, and his body is beginning to give out completely. The King Slime looms, delivering a crushing blow that sends him spiraling toward defeat. A blinding flash of energy erupts. The boss is struck down by an unseen force. Young Tisik collapses, blood staining the grass as he stares in total, agonizing disbelief. He tries to process the sudden shift, but his consciousness fades into the dark. Woojin stands over the fallen boss, his expression cold and unreadable as ever. The system pings, the King Slime is dead, and the reward is officially claimed. The King Slime core and fluid materialize, glowing with an intense, otherworldly, and precious light. The spirit of the tome is absolutely ecstatic, cheering for Woojin's incredible one-shot victory. Woojin turns his cold gaze toward the fallen Young Tisik, showing zero sympathy for his plight. He notes how Young Tisik's focus shattered the moment he realized he wasn't alone in the clearing. Woojin observes the internal damage, noting how the regressor's reckless energy usage destroyed his own body. He wonders if Young Tisik could have escaped, but his greed for the core sealed his fate. Woojin holds the shimmering King Slime core, contemplating the value of his hard-earned, legendary loot. He speaks to the unconscious man, claiming he saved his life from the boss's lethal strike. With a calm, calculated smirk, Woojin decides to take his payment for that heroic intervention. He tastes the King Slime, but suddenly his eyes widen. Something about this flavor is truly shocking. Woojin realizes the King Slime's remains taste surprisingly sweet, much like a heavenly durian. He's buzzing with excitement. This boss material is clearly the key to his next masterpiece. He pulls up the recipe, but wait, why does this legendary sherbet look so incredibly ordinary? He frowns, wondering if the recipe is somehow incomplete or missing a crucial secret step. The spirit of the tome snaps back, fiercely insisting that her recipes are absolutely flawless. Woojin shrugs, deciding to follow the instructions exactly, even if they seem strangely basic. He begins by boiling the iridescent fluids to sweeten them, while preparing to grind the core. He activates the black orb vacuum, trapping the core in a swirling sphere of dark energy. The orb pulses with power, crushing the legendary material into a fine, glowing dust. It's working perfectly, the mixture is ready, and Woojin's culinary experiment is officially underway. Woojin reflects on his past life, where his martial arts were used for lethal combat. He pours the ground core into the iridescent fluids, stirring them with a steady hand. The mixture swirls into a vibrant, glowing vortex. He's actually pulling this off. The viscosity shifts instantly. The recipe's secret trick works on every slime type. He pauses, noting the texture is completely different from his previous failed attempts. A smirk spreads across his face. He's finally having fun with this culinary experiment. The finished King Slime sherbet sits in the bowl, glowing with a legendary ethereal light. The system confirms the dish is complete, granting him massive experience and a quality achievement. The spirit of the tome is practically vibrating with excitement, begging for a taste. They both stare at the sherbet, wondering if it truly tastes as good as it looks. Young Tisik collapses against the tree, his body racked with pain and exhaustion. He gasps for air, wondering how much time has slipped away while he was unconscious. He spots Woojin nearby, looking entirely unaffected while holding the glowing, legendary King Slime sherbet. Every movement is agony, but he knows he has to keep pushing to survive this. Woojin casually considers sharing the treat, while the spirit of the tome shrieks in protest. Young Tisik recalls the terrifying moment Woojin struck down the boss with such chilling efficiency. The reality sets in. The legendary hidden piece is now firmly in Woojin's possession. He curses his own carelessness, realizing he let the most important prize slip away. The hidden piece is gone forever, and Woojin is now playfully wrestling with his hungry companion. Young Tisik spirals into despair, regretting every tactical mistake that cost him his future. Young Tisik is spiraling, wishing he had just teamed up with Woojin from the start. He's desperate, realizing the legendary reward is slipping through his fingers like sand. But wait, he catches himself. The game isn't over, the prize is still right there. He knows Woojin won't just hand it over, so he resolves to take it by force. He slams his hand into the grass, his eyes burning with a dangerous, newfound intensity. He's locked in. This is the moment he finally secures that elusive, game-changing hidden piece. Woojin stands over him, casually holding out the glowing, iridescent King Slime sherbet. A strange offer, Woojin invites him to take a bite, his expression unreadable and cold. Young Tisik hesitates, his mind racing. Why on earth would his rival share this treasure? He takes the spoon, thinking it's safe because killing is forbidden, but then it explodes. The spirit of the dungeon chef's secret tome is absolutely delighted by the sherbet. But Jo Seung-jun is horrified, wondering if this bizarre concoction is actually fit for consumption. He questions if a human can even stomach such a dish, despite the spirit's praise. He knows it's a hidden piece, so he forces himself to endure the strange flavor. He steels his resolve, swallowing the sherbet for the sake of his future power. Suddenly, a system notification flashes in the air. The true power of the dish awakens. The system confirms a permanent increase of 5 points to his mana stat. Jo Seung-jun is stunned, having never seen a hidden piece grant a direct stat boost. He finally understands the terrifying potential of the dungeon chef's secret tome and its food. Woojin watches him calmly, the secret of his culinary power now fully exposed to Seung-jun. Jo Seung-jun is blushing, clearly overwhelmed by the strange, potent effects of the sherbet. He admits the dish is delicious, though he's still visibly rattled by the experience. He thanks Woojin for the meal and for saving his life during the boss fight. Wait, the realization hits him. He knows exactly what that feeling in his body means. His eyes widen in terror. He realizes he has to get away from Woojin immediately. If he stays, Woojin will definitely force him to eat even more of his cooking. He stammers out another frantic thank you, his body trembling as he prepares to flee. Woojin smiles, offering more food, but Jo Seung-jun screams a desperate, terrified no. He bolts into the forest, absolutely terrified of becoming a permanent test subject for Woojin. Woojin and the spirit watch him run, disappointed that their favorite taste tester escaped so quickly. With 1 day left, Woojin suggests grinding for more ingredients to maximize their time. The tutorial tower exit looms large, signaling that only 2 hours remain until closure. Woojin steps toward the exit, his focus shifting as he prepares to leave the tower. The spirit of the tome sighs in relief, finally enjoying a breath of fresh air. Woojin gives the order to head back, triggering the system interface to finalize their progress. A notification blares, confirming his status as an official hunter and unlocking his new inventory. Woojin stares at the new system features, his expression unreadable as he processes the change. Suddenly, a draconic phantom manifests behind him, radiating an overwhelming and terrifying demonic aura. Woojin's eyes narrow, his gaze piercing as he senses something strange within the system's data. The spirit of the tome trembles, desperately urging Woojin to calm his intense, surging power. The system prompts Woojin to master his new status window and inventory interface. Woojin stares at the screen, his cold, defiant nature surfacing. What if he refuses? The system persists, insisting it only exists to provide essential guidance for his journey. Woojin sighs, his expression softening just enough to accept the inevitable tutorial. He feels the system's energy merging with his own, a strange, invasive sensation. He realizes the convenience of thought-based control. His status and inventory are now accessible. A new notification appears, detailing the requirements for his first official daily quest. Woojin reviews the task, finding the cooking and serving objectives surprisingly simple to complete. He ponders the serving requirement, jokingly deciding that Seonho will be his primary taste tester. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupts his thoughts. Someone is furious about his secret progress. An unknown scout approaches Woojin, claiming he has been waiting for his arrival. Woojin and his spirit companion are visibly confused, wondering why this stranger is here. The scout gets uncomfortably close, offering his help now that Woojin cleared the tower. He pushes Woojin to move quickly, acting as if they are already on a mission. They arrive at a massive building, and the spirit realizes exactly where they are. It's the Hunter Academy, the prestigious institution for the world's most elite rising stars. Woojin stares at the building, finally back in the real world after his grueling ordeal. The scout feigns humility, claiming he barely cleared the first floor and isn't academy material. Woojin isn't buying the act for a second, clearly skeptical of the scout's transparent lies. The scout persists, trying to lure Woojin into his guild with the promise of nomination. The recruiter is losing his mind, but Woojin shuts him down with a cold, flat negative. He's practically screaming now, desperate to sell the benefits of joining a guild. Woojin isn't having it. He's visibly frustrated by the constant, unwanted pressure. He drops the truth. He's only here to level up his cooking, not to fight. The recruiter is baffled, questioning why he'd prioritize cooking over becoming a powerful fighter. Woojin just walks away, leaving the guy stunned and completely ignored. The recruiter tries one last scare tactic, warning Woojin that he's going to regret this. He explains the government mandate: fail to join a guild and you're forced into the academy. The reality sinks in. The Hunter Academy is a military nightmare with terrible treatment. It's a total trap. The education is archaic and you're basically stuck there forever. The scout warns that academy dungeon runs are far more dangerous than anyone expects. Woojin feigns interest, but he's clearly just buying time to process this new information. He plays it cool, telling the scout he's tired and needs to think it over. The scout sighs, clearly exhausted by the back and forth, and agrees that he's tired too. The scout urges Woojin not to wait until the final deadline to make his choice. Woojin walks away, non-committal, while the pressure of the looming one-week deadline starts to sink in. A notification on his phone confirms he's been accepted into the Hunter Academy, no turning back. Back home, Woojin realizes the real world offers endless ingredients compared to the tower's limited slimes. His daily quest is stuck. He's cooked the food but failed to get anyone to eat it. His workout partner mocks his cooking, leaving Woojin fuming while the spirit begs him to keep going. Woojin stands firm. Becoming a hunter doesn't mean he's hanging up his apron. A call from Seonho breaks the tension. The secret is officially out in the open. Woojin stares at the phone, his irritation boiling over as he prepares to face the music. He arrives at the Hunter Academy gym, surrounded by a sea of hopeful, ambitious recruits. The spirit of the tome chirps in wonder, looking around at the bustling, crowded scene. She tilts her head, noting how unusual it is for so many hunters to gather here. A nearby recruit is practically vibrating with excitement, shouting about his new life as a hunter. Another guy is spiraling into a pit of regret, obsessing over every past tactical mistake. Woojin scans the room, his eyes narrowing as he observes the sheer variety of people present. He looks up at the ceiling. For an abandoned high school, this place is suspiciously spotless. The crowd whispers, confused why Bixialha is here instead of joining a guild. She leans against the wall, looking completely detached from the nervous energy surrounding her. Woojin notices her, his expression unreadable as he takes in the unexpected, high-profile presence. Wait, he spots Jo Seung-jun in the crowd, a face he definitely didn't expect to see. The spirit of the tome giggles, pointing out a recruit with a hilariously unique hairstyle. She mocks the guy's appearance, comparing his head to takoyaki while Woojin stays focused. The atmosphere shifts instantly as the entrance ceremony begins and the principal takes the stage. A booming voice echoes through the gymnasium, demanding absolute silence from the gathered recruits. The principal, Lee Chun, introduces himself, his presence radiating an intense, authoritative aura. Bixialha looks up, her eyes widening slightly as she finally acknowledges the academy's leader. Woojin freezes as the principal speaks. That voice and energy are hauntingly familiar. A dark flashback reveals a brutal past, linking the principal to the dreaded demonic cult. The principal rants about the cadets' weak attitudes, his voice dripping with old-world arrogance. Woojin stares in disbelief. He knows exactly who is standing on that stage right now. The blood demon Gyeokian has returned, manifesting as the shadow behind the principal's current form. Woojin realizes his old enemy from the murim era has also reincarnated into this world. The principal continues his lecture, oblivious to the fact that his past rival is watching. He boasts about the strength of warriors from 30 years ago, mocking modern hunters. Woojin watches him with a strange, cold smile, silently wishing his old foe well. Jo Seung-jun watches from the sidelines, finding the principal's bizarre, nostalgic speech incredibly weird. The principal is fuming, ranting about the lack of passion in today's hunters. He's genuinely confused, struggling to recall these specific events from his own past life. He reflects on his own legendary feats, having crushed B-class monsters in his prime. He recalls the chaos of the A-class gate incident, a memory etched in his mind. He scours the hunter net, finding media reports that mirror his own past experiences perfectly. He questions why a man of his immense caliber is wasting time running an academy. He scoffs at the recruits, mocking their pathetic reliance on store-bought items and gear. Woojin watches him closely, sensing a strange, lingering energy radiating from the academy grounds. He knows the principal is hiding something, and he's determined to uncover the truth. Choi Min-sung steps up, ordering the recruits to strike the training dummy 5 times. The training dummy displays a massive score of 30,766, setting a daunting initial benchmark. Recruits whisper in confusion, wondering if that score is actually attainable for a standard test. A brave applicant raises her hand, questioning why they must strike the dummy 5 times. She demands to know why a single strike isn't enough to prove their worth. The vice principal explains it's a test of endurance and consistent maximum output over time. He casually mentions his own status as a high B-class hunter to set the bar. He dismisses any further questions and commands the recruits to line up for the test. The first recruit lunges forward, landing a solid hit that registers a score of 302. The next applicant strikes with a punch, but the counter drops to a measly 272. Another recruit swings hard, yet the machine records only 403, showing how quickly power fades. Woojin watches the pathetic scores, unimpressed by the weak displays of these so-called hunters. The spirit of the tome gasps, finally recognizing Jo Seung-jun standing in the crowd. The proctor calls out Jo Seung-jun, who steps forward with a calm, unbothered expression. Woojin remembers how Seung-jun held back in the tower. He's clearly hiding his true potential. Woojin calculates that Seung-jun should easily hit 19,000 points based on their past encounters. Seung-jun strikes the dummy with a blur of motion, the impact echoing through the gym. The screen flashes 3097 points, leaving the entire room in a state of absolute shock. Woojin narrows his eyes. He knows Seung-jun is deliberately suppressing his power for some reason. The crowd erupts in whispers, stunned that someone would score so high yet seem so average. The proctor moves on, calling for Baek Seolha as the tension in the room reaches peak levels. Baek Seolha steps up, the entire room holding its breath to see her score. She channels her energy, a chilling blue aura erupting around her focused form. With a single explosive strike, she slams into the dummy, shattering the air itself. The crowd watches in absolute horror, their faces pale as they witness the impossible. The display screen flares bright red, the number is staggering. 10,000 points, the sheer power behind that hit is completely off the charts. The room erupts into chaos. No one can believe a rookie possesses such terrifying strength. Woojin watches the aftermath, his expression calm while everyone else spirals into total disbelief. Then it's Woojin's turn. He taps the dummy, and the screen hits a measly 222. He smirks, satisfied that his intentional, pathetic performance successfully flew under the radar. The top scorers from the physical exam are now the talk of the entire academy. Recruits are briefed on the strict academy rules and given a tour of the campus. The Hunter Academy dormitory looms ahead, a massive structure that will be home for now. Woojin finds the dorm life surprisingly manageable as he continues his culinary work in private. He enjoys the freedom to experiment, whipping up a blue slime-based salad that looks incredible. But it hasn't been easy. He's had to fend off constant pressure to change his path. People keep warning him about exploitation, but he's completely uninterested in joining a guild. He's finally in a position to cook whatever he wants, even if everyone else keeps refusing. The academy also provides access to essential monster theory and basic lessons he actually needs. It's finally time for the main event, and Woojin arrives at the gymnasium, ready for anything. The instructor greets the cadets, his tone dripping with sarcasm about their happy expressions. He holds his tablet, ready to drop the news about their very first official assignment. The room goes silent as he finally announces the teams for the upcoming dungeon exploration. He clarifies that cadets and their assigned observer hunters will be working as one unit. The stakes are set, everyone is heading into a low-level dungeon for their practical exam. Baek Seolha stands stoically, waiting to hear who she'll be forced to work with today. The instructor prepares to read the list, keeping the tension high for every single cadet. Woojin and his spirit companion exchange a look. This dungeon trip is finally happening. The pairs are called out one by one, with observers assigned to each specific group. The final team is revealed. Woojin is officially paired with the powerhouse Baek Seolha. Woojin glances over, his sharp eyes scanning the room as the announcement finally drops. The entire crowd freezes in shock. The legendary B-rank hunter Kim Chiguk is their assigned observer. The spirit of the tome whispers to Woojin, dismissing the famous hunter as no real threat. The instructor continues, detailing how some observers are academy staff while others are outside recruits. The cadets are ordered to find their teams, the pressure of the dungeon exploration mounting instantly. The room erupts in disbelief. They can't fathom why a high-profile hunter would visit the academy. Kim Chiguk steps forward, his polished suit and calm demeanor cutting through the chaotic gym atmosphere. He approaches Woojin and Baek Seolha, his smile thin and eyes calculating behind his glasses. Kim Chiguk offers a casual tone, but his internal motive is clear. He wants the guild indebted. He claims he's only here for Seolha, but his gaze lingers on Woojin with hidden intent. Baek Seolha insists she's just a cadet here, shedding her guild legacy for now. Woojin plays along, promising to be careful while the spirit of the tome watches. The spirit isn't convinced, whispering that the observer hunter is looking down on them. Time to pick a dungeon, the list is out and they need a practical site. Woojin checks his phone, confirming their destination while the spirit hovers in total confusion. Wait, they're really heading there. The name of the dungeon catches them both off guard. It's official. Kim Chiguk confirms they are diving into the notorious Killer Bee dungeon today. The entrance at Namguro Station glows, signaling the start of their high-stakes practical exam. It looks like a peaceful park, but don't be fooled. Most hunters avoid this F-rank trap. The killer bees are swarming, and Baek Seolha worries if Woojin can handle the danger. Baek Seolha doubts Woojin's potential, unimpressed by his lackluster academy test scores. Woojin remains cool, unfazed by her skepticism while he tests the weight of his blade. Baek Seolha warns him about the Killer Bee dungeon's notorious, hidden dangers. Kim Chiguk interrupts, confidently boasting that his B-rank status will guarantee their safety. The group finally confirms their team, with Kim Chiguk acting as their official observer. Baek Seolha questions if it's wise to underestimate Woojin, given his mysterious, hidden capabilities. The reality of dungeon overcrowding hits home, making proper training nearly impossible for them. Kim Chiguk dismisses their concerns, claiming he wants them to maximize their growth today. He reassures them that as long as no C-rank boss appears, they'll be perfectly fine. They stand before the glowing dungeon entrance, ready to face the killer bee swarm together. Kim Chiguk flashes a smug grin, eager to dive into the killer bee dungeon. The team enters the dungeon, greeted by the buzzing of aggressive, insect-type monsters. Chiguk lectures the cadets on insect weaknesses, acting like the ultimate experienced mentor. He demonstrates his skill, swiftly impaling the hive leader with his long, sharp spear. The remaining bees instantly drop, their connection to the leader severed in a flash. Seolha watches in shock, realizing she somehow identified the leader before Chiguk even struck. Chiguk praises her, though he quickly pivots to teaching a more advanced, subtle method. He points toward a hidden spot, dropping hints about the leader's unique mana signature. Woojin ignores the lecture, his eyes lighting up as he spots rare Fenestra mint nearby. Chiguk grows annoyed, wondering why Woojin is completely distracted while he offers elite training. Kim Chiguk snaps, demanding Woojin stop foraging and focus on the mission at hand. Baek Seolha observes, noting that Woojin is usually such a by-the-book, disciplined individual. He follows the standard exploration manual, prioritizing the environment over reckless, immediate combat. Chiguk loses his cool, screaming at Woojin to stop wasting time in a cleared dungeon. The spirit of the tome is livid, furious that this hunter is ruining her ingredient hunt. Woojin sighs, telling Seolha they should move on while the spirit plots her silent revenge. The system displays the killer bee honey recipe, teasing the rare ingredients Woojin desperately needs. Woojin scans the area, frustrated that the hive remains hidden despite their time spent searching. He watches the bees, realizing their behavior is far too predictable for a high-level dungeon. Chiguk strikes again, but Woojin ignores him, obsessed with finding that elusive hidden hive. Woojin slips away, confident that the others can handle the dungeon without him. The bees keep swarming, forcing the team to stay on high alert for more threats. Baek Seolha is visibly exhausted, struggling to keep up with the relentless waves of monsters. Kim Chiguk remains calm, clearly pleased that he's the one guiding the remaining cadets. Seolha gasps for air, realizing just how dangerous this dungeon actually is for them. She looks around, suddenly worried about the absence of her teammate during this chaos. Chiguk smiles, casually dropping the bomb that their partner has completely abandoned his post. The realization hits Seolha like a truck. Woojin is nowhere to be found in the dungeon. Chiguk's expression darkens, his disbelief turning into pure, unadulterated rage at the situation. He loses it, screaming Woojin's name as the reality of the missing cadet sinks in. Kim Chiguk is absolutely losing it, fuming over Woojin's constant, infuriating lack of focus. Suddenly, a deafening, unnatural roar tears through the air, stopping everyone in their tracks. Chiguk freezes, his face pale as he realizes this isn't just another standard bee. A massive, ominous red system notification blares in the sky, signaling a catastrophic event. Baek Seolha and Chiguk stare up in pure terror, completely blindsided by the sudden shift. The killer bee queen has arrived, and the dungeon has just become a death trap. Chef slices through the swarm of giant bees, finally free to hunt his own ingredients. The air is thick with a sweet scent, and Chef knows something valuable is nearby. He trusts his nose, sniffing out the trail that leads deeper into the dangerous dungeon. His unnamed companion scrambles to keep up as he marches past the fallen insect husks. He pauses, eyes narrowing as he spots something hidden behind the thick green foliage. A massive cave entrance. How did they miss this gaping hole in the dungeon wall? The darkness inside is absolute, but the sweet smell of honey is now overwhelming. A faint grin forms on his face, the thrill of the hunt is finally kicking in. He steps into the abyss, determined to track down the source of that intoxicating aroma. His companion gasps in awe. They've stumbled onto something truly massive hidden in the shadows. Chef and his unnamed companion stare up at the massive, glowing honeycomb structure. It's a literal honey mine. Chef prepares to sample the goods, completely unfazed by danger. Wait, Chef reaches out, but a sudden, ominous red interface flickers in the air. Chef freezes, his expression shifting from curiosity to pure, cold alertness. The system warns of the killer bee queen. She's awake and she's absolutely furious. A deafening roar echoes through the cave. Chef and his companion scramble, looking for cover. Meanwhile, the instructor and his unnamed female cadet are sprinting through the forest, panicked. The instructor is sweating bullets, regretting his laziness and the missing academy tracker. His reputation with the Jew clan is crumbling. He can't afford to lose another cadet. The unnamed female cadet suggests splitting up, but the instructor snaps, his desperation boiling over. The instructor swings his weapon, desperate to keep the swarm at bay. The unnamed female cadet dodges, but the danger is closing in way too fast. Panic sets in. The instructor refuses to let his team split up and die. The unnamed female cadet obeys, her eyes wide with fear as the situation spirals. They dive behind cover, praying the monsters don't spot them in the brush. The instructor signals for total silence. Even a whisper could get them killed now. A massive shadow looms overhead. The killer bee queen has finally arrived on the scene. It's a C-rank boss. This nightmare shouldn't even exist in an F-rank dungeon. The instructor's mind races. How did a boss like this stay hidden for years? Reality hits hard. They are completely outmatched and need B-rank support to survive this. The dungeon is sealed for 6 hours. No rescue is coming for them now. The instructor tries to keep his cool, desperate for that sweet Heavenly Wings Guild reward. Sialha's blood runs cold. The killer bee queen has locked onto their exact position. The instructor can't believe it. The boss is actually hunting them down right now. The massive creature descends through the canopy, its presence completely overwhelming the forest. Panic surges. The instructor realizes they are in a fight for their very lives. The killer bee queen strikes with terrifying speed, shredding the trees around them. The instructor screams for Sialha to retreat, his voice cracking under the intense pressure. He shouts for her to use the dense forest terrain to slow the beast down. The instructor prepares to face the monster head-on, buying Sialha time to escape the slaughter. The instructor lunges, his spear narrowly missing the killer bee queen's jagged, armored wing. Trees shatter like glass as the beast barrels through the forest, closing the distance instantly. The instructor stumbles back, realizing his best strikes are barely scratching the monster's hide. Desperation fuels him. He channels his energy, blue aura swirling around his spear tip. He unleashes a chain spiral spear, but the impact against the exoskeleton is deafeningly hollow. The boss barely flinches. The instructor's face pales as he realizes he's completely outmatched. He screams for Sialha to flee, but she stands her ground, refusing to abandon him. Sialha draws her sword, citing her father's code. She will not turn her back now. She stands defiant, ready to fight a C-rank boss with nothing but her blade. The instructor bellows in terror, watching the queen descend to crush them both into dust. The killer bee queen lunges, her massive stinger poised to end the instructor instantly. He barely dodges, but the sheer force of the strike sends him sprawling into the dirt. Panic hits him. He's terrified for Sialha, realizing how close they are to being wiped out. Sialha doesn't hesitate, diving into the fray to draw the monster's deadly attention away. She clashes with the beast, her blade ringing out as she desperately parries a lethal blow. She holds her ground, breathing hard and realizing just how durable this C-rank nightmare is. The instructor snaps back to reality, finally coordinating their last-ditch effort to survive this encounter. He commits to a high-risk strategy, planning to channel every drop of his remaining mana. He flares with blue energy, preparing the final strike while Sialha braces for the impact. She swings her sword with everything she has, meeting the queen's massive shadow head-on. The killer bee queen strikes, but Sialha barely manages to dodge the lethal blow. Wait, something is wrong. The buzzing sound has completely changed, turning into a low, menacing hum. Suddenly, the sky darkens as a massive swarm of killer bees descends upon the clearing. Sialha's heart sinks. The queen is summoning reinforcements and they are completely surrounded now. She gasps, her eyes widening in pure terror as she realizes they are truly finished. It's too late to run. The swarm is already closing in on their position. Instructor Chiguk unleashes his ultimate technique, the chain spiral spear tearing through the air. The impact creates a massive crater, but the queen just shrugs it off like nothing. Sialha collapses, panting heavily, desperately hoping that their desperate gamble actually worked. Instructor Chiguk smiles, convinced they won, but a terrifying shadow looms right behind Sialha. Sialha freezes, her eyes widening as she senses something shifting in the air nearby. A sudden violent gust of wind whips past her, tearing through the dense forest canopy. She screams out in pure shock as the atmosphere shifts, signaling a new, dangerous arrival. A massive, terrifying silhouette looms over the clearing, casting a long shadow over the instructor. Instructor Chiguk stares up, his heart sinking as he realizes they are completely trapped now. He's utterly drained, his mana reserves empty and his hope for survival rapidly fading away. He curses his luck, still blaming the missing cadet for this absolute nightmare of a situation. He desperately scans the area, trying to figure out why the beast stopped its attack. The killer bee queen tilts its head, its gaze shifting away from him toward something else. Wait, Chef emerges from the treeline, his calm presence cutting through the chaos like a blade. Chef stands his ground, his eyes locked onto the terrifying, looming boss monster. Instructor Chiguk screams in disbelief, demanding to know why woojin is still here. The killer bee queen towers over the clearing, her massive presence paralyzing everyone nearby. Chef grips his sword tight, his cold gaze fixed on the monster's lethal stinger. The queen lunges with blinding speed, but Chef doesn't even flinch at the attack. He steps forward, his silhouette dwarfed by the monster's massive, jagged yellow wings. Chef draws his blade in one fluid motion, preparing to intercept the deadly strike. Instructor Chiguk watches in shock, his eyes wide as he realizes Chef isn't running away. Chef readies his stance, his calm expression contrasting with the absolute chaos around him. Meanwhile, Baek Dujang discusses the mysterious dungeon medicine with Sialha, unaware of the carnage. Young Sialha stares at the potion, her heart sinking as the flavor fails her. She hangs her head in shame, whispering a quiet apology to her waiting father. The silence is deafening as she admits she still cannot taste a single thing. Her father looks away, his expression heavy with the weight of years of failure. He tries to comfort her, but she insists that her other senses are compensating. Years later, Sialha finally takes a bite, her eyes widening as the sensation hits. It's a total breakthrough. She finally understands the complex, vibrant world of human taste. She is overwhelmed, realizing that no amount of money could have bought this moment. Instructor Chiguk watches, worried that the potent dungeon medicine is hurting her tongue. Sialha ignores the pain, smiling through the swelling as she finally experiences life. Instructor Chiguk is completely baffled by the bizarre turn of events. Outside the Nanguro station, the C-rank dungeon entrance pulses with an ominous, dark energy. The public is in a frenzy, questioning why this F-rank dungeon suddenly turned deadly. A man in a suit stands before the glowing gate, staring into the abyss. Guildmaster Beek Dujang arrives, his face etched with deep, cold concern for his daughter. Assistant Cho tries to reassure him, but the tension in the air is suffocating. Suddenly, a reporter shoves a microphone forward, demanding a response about the trapped Sialha. Assistant Cho snaps, furious at the reporter's complete lack of tact and respect. The reporter freezes, his device picking up a strange signal. What is happening in there? Everyone stares at the device, eyes wide as the signal reveals something entirely unexpected. Beek Dujang snaps, his temper finally boiling over at the prying crowd. Assistant Cho desperately tries to keep him composed, fearing for the guild's public image. The crowd whispers, judging the Heavenly Wings Guild for their cold, unprofessional behavior. Wait, the heavy, magical seal on the dungeon entrance suddenly begins to flicker and fade. The barrier dissolves into thin air, the restriction on entry has finally been lifted. Beek Dujang lunges forward, his eyes locked on the gate, desperate to find his daughter. Chef Sialha and Chin Woojin emerge from the rift, battered but miraculously alive. It's a total miracle. The crowd gasps as the survivors step out into the light. Everyone stares in shock at the legendary killer bee Queen's spear in the instructor's hand. A unique grade item, the crowd goes wild as the system confirms the boss's defeat. The system breaks down the hierarchy: common, rare, unique, epic, and legendary. Instructor Chiguk sweats, knowing how incredibly rare a legendary item truly is. The press swarms him, desperate for answers about the C-rank boss he supposedly defeated. He's sweating buckets, silently panicking because he knows he didn't actually do it. The academy principal watches the news, feeling smug about the sudden surge in reputation. He reads the headlines, noting the significant help from cadets, a massive red flag. The principal chuckles, calling Chiguk a sly dog for somehow pulling this off. Wait, he pauses, even he knows Chiguk couldn't have soloed a C-rank boss alone. He laughs it off, deciding that luck must have been on the instructor's side. A knock at the door, the principal turns, unaware of the truth behind the chaos. The academy principal welcomes the trio, calling them the heroes of the dungeon incident. Instructor Chiguk laughs nervously, brushing off the praise while sweating under the intense scrutiny. The principal offers rewards, but his eyes narrow as he demands a full debriefing report. Chiguk keeps up the act, claiming he only survived because of Sialha and Chin Woojin. He spins a web of lies, describing the F-rank dungeon as a routine, simple exploration. Chef sits silently in the background, watching Chiguk's false testimony with a cold, piercing stare. The principal listens intently, his expression shifting as he processes the instructor's questionable account. A teacup clinks against the saucer. The principal's intuition tells him something is deeply wrong. The principal sighs, his brow furrowing as he senses the blatant deception in the room. Chiguk keeps rambling about future anomalies, unaware that the principal is already onto his game. Chef sips his tea, his mind racing as he studies Chin Woojin's strange, familiar aura. He knows that energy, it's not a trainee's power but the heavy weight of a sect leader. The realization hits him like a physical blow: that boy is hiding a terrifying secret. The academy principal suddenly freezes, his eyes wide as he senses the tension in the room. Instructor Chiguk looks on, completely oblivious to the storm brewing right under his nose. The principal abruptly cuts the meeting short, desperate to clear the room and hide his panic. Chef bows his head, playing the part while his mind churns over the impossible truth. Instructor Chiguk rushes to usher the trainees out, eager to escape the principal's prying eyes. He tries to act natural, but his sweat-drenched face betrays his desperate need to leave. Chef reaches out and the instructor jumps back in pure, unadulterated terror, caught in the act. Instructor Chiguk is spiraling, terrified that Chef wants more than just a simple meal. His heart hammers against his ribs, he knows the truth is hanging by a thread. Chef holds out his phone, casually offering a meal while the instructor's world falls apart. The instructor is losing his mind, realizing his lies are being exposed by this cold kid. He's sweating, completely caught off guard by the demand for his personal contact information. A wave of pure, unadulterated dread washes over him. He's trapped in his own web. Chef remains calm, his offer of a meal feeling more like a looming, inevitable threat. The instructor is absolutely cooked. He knows his professional life is effectively over right now. He walks away, defeated and trembling, while Chef and his companion watch him crumble. The small sprite-like character snaps, furious that the instructor is stealing credit for Chef's victory. Chef keeps his head down, refusing to chase the fame that others crave. His companion is fuming, still bitter that the world ignores Chef's true, massive contributions. A classmate confronts woojin, waving a viral article about the dungeon incident around. The article shamelessly credits instructor Chiguk for a solo victory against the C-rank boss. The class is buzzing with questions, desperate to know the truth behind the chaos. Chef remains unfazed, his only concern being the next meal needed for his quest. Professor Kim Youngdu enters the room, his stern presence instantly silencing the noisy students. He announces a video review of their practice sessions, keeping the class strictly focused. The screen flickers to life, and the students watch the footage with intense curiosity. Kim Hyun-sung hits the screen, instantly engulfed in a mysterious, thick cloud of smoke. Professor Kim Youngdu doesn't hold back, tearing into the trainee's pathetic performance. Kim Hyun-sung crumbles under the pressure, apologizing profusely for his amateur mistake. The professor sighs, questioning how they'll ever survive the upcoming high-stakes tournament. The Hunter Tournament trophy looms, a brutal proving ground for the year's top recruits. The academy is desperate, they haven't seen a real victory in over 10 years. Kim Youngdu rubs his temples, exhausted by the sheer incompetence of his current class. He pivots to Seolha, whose A+ grade is a rare glimmer of hope in this room. Jo Seung-jun follows, his 92 points proving he's another rare talent worth watching. Kim Youngdu finally relaxes, relieved to find at least a few capable students remaining. The tension spikes again, it's finally time for Chun Woojin to face the review. The professor watches Chun Woojin, sensing a deep, hidden mystery behind his calm exterior. He observes Chef cooking quietly, the peaceful scene masking the man's true, dangerous potential. He remains vigilant, determined to keep a close watch on the boy's every move. Chun Woojin stands there, his expression unreadable as the room falls into a tense silence. He grips his sword, the metallic click echoing through the room. Is he ready? Wait, he fumbles the blade, looking completely lost as the practice simulation begins. The screen flashes red, "You died." The room erupts in stunned, awkward silence. Chun Woojin stands blankly, receiving a humiliating F-rank with 0 points on his record. Professor Kim Youngdu buries his face in his hands, completely speechless at the failure. The small, sprite-like character loses it, screaming at the professor for insulting the legendary chef. The sprite-like companion goes ballistic, screaming at the class to respect the legendary chef. Chef remains stoic, his eyes cold and calculating. He's clearly planning something behind that blank face. Meanwhile, the cafeteria is buzzing with toxic gossip from the students who despise him. Incheol sneers, still bitter about the tutorial tower incident and blaming Chef for their failure. Yangshik chimes in with a smug grin, acting like they're the victims of a grand injustice. Jinseop doesn't hold back, openly threatening to hunt Chef down and end him for good. The hopeless trio continues their pathetic rant, mocking the academy professors as total washed-up losers. A student reads the article, scoffing at the idea that Chef could actually have real skills. Suddenly, a bizarre, glowing dish appears, the infamous choco salad, looking absolutely revolting on the plate. The trio looms over Chef, ready to start trouble, but he's just staring at that salad. Chef stares down the revolting choco salad, his expression shifting into pure, cold disgust. The hopeless trio watches him, their faces pale with a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. Yangshik is shaking, his eyes wide as he realizes they've pushed the wrong person too far. The cafeteria atmosphere turns icy. Chef sits at the center of a silent, suffocating tension. Incheol is sweating, convinced that Chef is about to retaliate for their past harassment. The sprite-like companion tilts her head, genuinely confused by the trio's pathetic, trembling display. Chef remains stoic, his mind clearly working through a plan that leaves the trio terrified. He slides the plate forward, his gaze locking onto them with a chilling, predatory intensity. The plate hits the table with a thud, a bizarre, slime-covered challenge they can't refuse. Yangshik stares at the blue slime and chocolate, horrified by the prospect of eating it. Chef looms like a reaper, forcing the terrified trio to face his bizarre creation. Yangshik hesitates, but the fear of Chef's wrath outweighs his survival instinct. He takes a bite. Pure agony, the minty, mouthwash-like dressing hits his senses like a tidal wave of ice. It's a sensory overload. The strange, addictive chocolate slime mixture leaves him completely dazed and confused. The rest of the class watches in horror, wondering what kind of torture they are witnessing. The trio collapses, completely overwhelmed by the intense, addictive flavor of the choco salad. Chef smiles, genuinely touched that someone finally appreciates his unique culinary masterpiece. Yangshik is trembling, still processing the weird, minty shock that just rocked his world. But wait, despite the initial horror, he's hooked. He can't deny that it's actually delicious. The class is interrupted as Professor Lee Yungshik arrives to teach, understanding dungeons and their types. Professor Lee Yungshik lays down the law: miss 3 classes and you're out. The students are already checking out, whispering that this lecture is just like the rest. The professor adjusts his glasses, unfazed by the apathy, and signals that the real lesson begins. He dives into the dangers of the goblin lair, warning everyone about those deadly mud golems. Chef is actually locked in, finding the lecture surprisingly systematic and full of useful, gritty details. The topic shifts to the wild boar's wilderness, a legendary goldmine of high-value iron ore. Chef's companion perks up instantly, her eyes gleaming at the mention of that delicious boar meat. Chef is already mentally salivating, imagining the rich, gamey flavor of that high-quality dungeon delicacy. But the professor drops a bombshell: the dungeon is forbidden territory because it's way too dangerous. Chef sighs in disappointment, already plotting a way to bypass the rules and get that meat. Woojin is stunned. The principal is actually advising him against the expedition. The principal sips his tea, clearly unsettled by the boy's presence in his office. Chef remains calm, politely thanking the principal for the unexpected and kind welcome. The principal's mind races. He knows something is deeply wrong with this quiet, mysterious trainee. He stares at Chef, his intuition screaming that this boy is hiding a terrifying secret. Suddenly, a dark, suffocating pressure erupts from Chef, catching the principal completely off guard. The air turns heavy. The principal gasps, recognizing the unmistakable weight of a sect leader's aura. The principal is trembling, his eyes wide as he demands to know the source of that power. Chef finally speaks, revealing his past as a young boy lost on Baekdu Mountain. He describes finding an ancient chest and a mysterious manual hidden deep within a cave. The principal is reeling. Baekdu Mountain. He was certain the blood demon's secrets were on Tianshan. He stares out at the frozen landscape, his mind struggling to grasp this impossible revelation. The weight of the sect leader's legacy hangs in the air, heavy and deeply unsettling. He admits that despite his skepticism, the raw, dark aura radiating from Chef is undeniable. The principal's shadow deepens as he realizes Chef saw right through his own hidden power. Chef remains calm, his eyes steady as he explains how the manual detailed the blood demon. The principal is stunned. Could a mere book really reveal the secrets of his own martial arts? Chef simply nods, his expression serene. The manual was just that incredibly well written. The principal's aura flares with intensity. He knows he must hear the rest of this story. He crosses his arms, leaning back as he demands to know why Chef is really here. Chef stands firm, requesting official access to the restricted wild boar's wilderness. The principal agrees, making a rare exception due to Chef's mysterious martial arts prowess. He demands more secrets about the manual, but tells Chef to explore the wilderness first. Chef nods in silent agreement, his expression unreadable as he accepts the principal's terms. The principal probes for details on who will accompany him, sensing a deeper game. Meanwhile, instructor Chiguk kneels in the dark, reporting the dungeon incident to his master. Chiguk remains bowed low, his posture radiating pure subservience to the man in the shadows. Ju Yongmyung, the head of the Ju clan, looms over the city like a predator. Chiguk stays locked in his submissive pose, awaiting judgment for his failure in the dungeon. The master offers cold praise, leaving Chiguk to stammer his thanks in the chilling silence. Instructor Chiguk is absolutely buzzing, practically jumping for joy after getting praised by his master. He's feeling untouchable, thinking it's the perfect time to celebrate with a drink at the bar. Wait, his phone pings, and his entire expression shifts from pure delight to absolute cold dread. It's a text from Woojin, demanding an expedition to the wild boar's wilderness tomorrow morning. Chiguk is spiraling, frantically brainstorming pathetic excuses to avoid this dangerous, unwanted request. He pauses, eyes widening as he remembers the Academy rulebook's strict regulations on dungeon access. He scans the digital list, confirming that the wild boar's wilderness is strictly off-limits without approval. He realizes they'd also need a 3-person team, and Sialha is still recovering from her injuries. He smirks, feeling relieved that these 2 major regulations will finally get that crazy bastard off his back. He stretches, ready to finally relax, completely unaware that Woojin won't take no for an answer. Chiguk stares at his phone in total disbelief. The kid actually got the permit. The official document is right there, signed by the principal himself. No way out now. He's sweating, completely baffled by how this crazy bastard pulled off such an impossible feat. They arrive at the wild boar's wilderness, a desolate E-rank dungeon filled with jagged, dusty rocks. It's the primary source of bright metal ore, a high-mana resource that every hunter craves. Even high-ranking hunters flock here to get their hands on that lucrative, valuable metal. It's a goldmine for miners, but Chiguk is just confused. Why is Chef here of all places? Chiguk watches him, sweating bullets, wondering if the kid is secretly hunting for that ore. But Chef isn't mining, he's just crouched on the ground picking at some random weeds. Chiguk finally snaps, asking if he's here for the mine, but Chef coldly denies it. Instructor Chiguk is losing his mind, screaming at Chef for dragging him into this mess. Chef remains completely unfazed, while his companion praises his vast, mysterious knowledge of the dungeon. The instructor is baffled, still questioning why they aren't mining for the valuable bright metal. He sighs in frustration, his patience wearing thin as he tries to understand Chef's motives. Chiguk shouts in disbelief, realizing Chef has wandered off again into the dusty, barren wilderness. He sprints across the rocky terrain, desperately trying to keep up with the mysterious, fast-moving trainee. The instructor is panting, completely stunned by how Chef covers ground with such casual, effortless speed. Chiguk finally collapses in exhaustion, gasping for air as he struggles to keep pace with him. He stares at Chef, sweat dripping down his face, wondering what secret goal drives this kid. Chef just smiles at a wild cactus, leaving the bewildered instructor questioning his own sanity. Chef analyzes the system interface, plotting his next culinary masterpiece with slime. The recipe for bright metal or centum cactus grill appears, clearly unregistered. Chef smiles, convinced there is a hidden reason to use these dungeon ingredients. Instructor Chiguk snaps, demanding to know why they are really in this wilderness. Chef coldly replies that they are here for the rare bright metal ore. Chiguk is furious, shouting that he already told the kid where to find it. Chef ignores the outburst, simply thanking him while Chiguk struggles to maintain composure. Chiguk tries to lecture him, but Chef is already miles ahead in the distance. The instructor collapses in total exhaustion, unable to keep up with Chef's insane pace. Chef stands at the mine, looking perfectly fine while Chiguk realizes he is a monster. Woojin walks toward the dark mine entrance, leaving a breathless instructor Chiguk behind. Hyunsik blocks the path, his gruff demeanor making it clear they aren't welcome here. The miners gather, their suspicious glares suggesting they've had enough trouble in this dungeon lately. Hyunsik's eyes widen in sudden, sharp realization, why is this kid just standing there? The miners whisper amongst themselves, finally recognizing the man standing behind the mysterious trainee. It's instructor Chiguk. The miners are stunned, their hostility instantly melting into nervous, frantic confusion. The atmosphere shifts violently as the miners scramble to greet the famous hunter Kim Chiguk. Hyunsik shakes Chiguk's hand, desperately trying to cover his tracks with a fake, friendly smile. Chef remains stoic while his companion fumes, annoyed that these fools don't recognize his greatness. Hyunsik laughs nervously, waving his men aside to clear a path for the intruders. The miners bow, terrified of offending the supposedly legendary instructor Chiguk. They step into the dark tunnel, leaving the nervous miners behind them. A worker whispers, questioning if it's truly safe to let those two inside. The boss snaps back, telling him to shut up and mind his own business. Chiguk gloats, convinced his reputation is the only reason they were granted entry. He beams with pride, fully buying into his own delusional, self-important narrative. He directs Chef deeper into the cave, still acting like he's in total control. Chiguk strikes a pose, laughing at how easily he commands respect from everyone here. They reach the inner sanctum, where the air grows heavy with raw magical energy. Wait, Chef stops dead in his tracks. Something is horribly, dangerously wrong in this cave. Instructor Chiguk points out the obvious, they have absolutely zero mining equipment here. He warns Woojin that the ore is far too tough to handle manually. But Woojin ignores him, drawing his blade with a sharp, lethal metallic ring. With a single, fluid motion, he slices right through the incredibly dense bright metal ore. Chiguk's jaw drops. How on earth did he just cut through that like it was butter? Woojin calmly grabs the chunk, signaling it's time to leave the mine immediately. The miners watch them walk away, completely baffled by their sudden, empty-handed departure. The lead miner scoffs, assuming the B-rank hunter is just as useless as he looks. Chiguk stands frozen in total shock, his mind struggling to process the impossible display. He watches in horror as Woojin starts grilling food on the hot, mana-infused ore. The bright metal ore heats up, perfectly searing the centum cactus slices. Chef tastes the creation, finding it edible but lacking that signature punch. He pulls out the slime fluid, ready to elevate this dish to greatness. True flame control ignites, simmering the sauce with precise, controlled heat management. He tosses in dried chili and onions, transforming the base into a masterpiece. One bite and he's hooked. The spicy, complex sauce changes everything for the better. A system notification blares, A+ quality achieved, unlocking the exceptional quality achievement. Chef stares at the interface, stunned by the sudden surge of dungeon energy. His companion cheers wildly, celebrating the legendary feat of surpassing a grade culinary standards. She explains the buff, but Chef is already focused on the next discovery. The system confirms it. The cactus grill is a massive, stat-boosting success. Chef ponders his growth, though he's still hung up on the quality of his previous dish. He turns to the instructor, offering him a piece of the A+ grade masterpiece. The instructor hesitates, clearly terrified of what this crazy bastard is actually feeding him. He recalls the horrific royal beehive herb stew and prays this one is better. With a shaky hand, the instructor decides to risk it. He takes a bite. Instant regret, the flavor hits him like a truck. He's completely overwhelmed by the intensity. He's struggling to process the weird, avocado-like texture that defies all his expectations. It's drowning in grease, and the poor guy is fighting the urge to vomit. Chef offers the spicy dipping sauce, completely oblivious to the man's absolute culinary suffering. Chef adds the spicy sauce, hoping to balance the intense, greasy flavor profile. The instructor chokes, his face contorting as the overwhelming heat hits his throat instantly. He collapses onto the desert floor, gasping for air while Chef watches, completely satisfied. A system ping echoes, the instructor is down, his body reacting to the potent dish. The interface confirms the buff, strength increased by 3 for the next 24 hours. The instructor stares at the notification, his mind reeling from the sudden, massive power surge. He realizes this isn't just a prank, the stat boost is real and incredibly potent. Wait, he's questioning everything. Is dungeon food actually meant to be this powerful and addictive? His body begins to tremble violently, the raw energy of the meal coursing through him. Suddenly, the ground shakes, the miners are fleeing, terrified of the power Chef just unleashed. The ground erupts, a massive pack of wild boars charges out of the dust. They're everywhere, swarming the area with terrifying speed and raw, untamed aggression. The instructor stays calm, dismissing the threat as a simple, routine hunt for him. He's confident, knowing that if things get dicey, woojin is there to back him up. With a cocky grin, the instructor prepares to engage the charging beasts head-on. He lunges forward, unleashing the chain spiral spear to cut through the enemy ranks. "Bring it on," he shouts, diving straight into the heart of the stampeding herd. Steel flashes as he strikes, but the sheer number of boars is overwhelming his technique. Wait, his expression shifts. Something is definitely wrong here, the boars aren't going down easily. He's struggling, realizing that without Woojin's help, this fight is turning into a nightmare. The instructor screams, demanding Woojin focus on the brutal boar stampede. Panic sets in. Where did the boy go? Did he get trampled by the herd? A cold, detached voice echoes from above, mocking the instructor's flashy, useless spear techniques. The instructor looks up, bewildered by the sheer chaos of the charging wild boars. There he is. Woojin stands calmly atop a high, jagged rock formation, watching everything. He looks down with arms crossed, completely unbothered by the life-or-death struggle below him. The instructor gasps, wondering how the kid reached that vantage point without being noticed. Woojin shouts down, lecturing him on the inefficiency of fighting beasts like human opponents. The instructor is baffled. How is the boy's voice carrying so clearly over the roar? Suddenly, a boar lunges from behind. Woojin warns him, saving the instructor just in time. Chef stands tall, determined to repay the instructor for his unique culinary insight. He prepares to deliver a lesson that simply cannot be learned anywhere else. The instructor is fuming, baffled by the audacity of this kid giving him combat advice. He's desperate to clear the boars and claim the remaining ore for himself. But his reputation is crumbling as he struggles to handle the relentless charging beasts. He's flailing, realizing the student has completely vanished from the battlefield. Chef's voice cuts through the chaos, ruthlessly critiquing the instructor's poor balance and wasted energy. The instructor snaps, screaming in frustration as he barely fends off the savage boar pack. Chef remains perched above, coldly analyzing the instructor's inefficient, flashy movements from his high vantage point. He watches with a critical eye, unimpressed by the instructor's lack of precision in battle. Kim Chiguk is absolutely losing his mind, screaming about the stress this kid causes. The boar pack swarms him, their massive forms crashing down with relentless savage force. Chef coldly critiques his form, telling him to stop wasting energy on emotional spear strikes. Chiguk snaps back, his face twisted in rage, demanding to know whose fault this is. He's panting, struggling to keep his guard up as the boars circle him like vultures. Chef watches from the ledge, unimpressed, deciding the instructor is just a slow, stubborn learner. He draws his sword, preparing to demonstrate the true power of the heavenly demon's sacred art. The boars tighten their formation, sensing the shift in the air as Chef prepares to strike. Chiguk dives low, desperately trying to parry the incoming stampede with his chain spiral spear. A massive purple-hued shockwave erupts, obliterating the boar pack in one single, terrifying display of power. Kim Chiguk stares in total disbelief as the boar pack is suddenly decimated. He looks toward the distant rock formation, stunned by the sheer range of the attack. His heart is pounding. That strike was impossible for a normal B-rank hunter to pull off. He watches Chef walk away, his mind racing with a terrifying new conclusion about him. He's convinced now Chef isn't just a trainee, he's hiding S-rank power beneath his hood. Meanwhile, the miners are huddled in the cave, trembling as they process the sudden silence. They can't believe their eyes. The entire boar threat was wiped out in a single heartbeat. One miner recalls his past experience with birankers, realizing Chef's power is on another level. He stares at the carnage, absolutely certain that Kim Chiguk is concealing his true potential. A system notification pings for both of them, signaling the end of this chaotic encounter. A system alert flashes. The Wilderness Guardian has arrived, absolutely livid about the massacre. The massive armored boar stands before them, its glowing eyes locking onto the intruders. It lets out a deafening, blood-curdling roar that shakes the very foundations of the cave. Kim Chiguk's face goes pale, his eyes wide as he realizes the true scale of this threat. He screams at Chef to stay back, bracing himself for a desperate, potentially fatal stand. The beast charges with terrifying speed, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris. Chiguk grits his teeth, his grip tightening on his spear. He knows this won't be easy. The massive creature looms over them, its tusks ready to gore anything in its path. It crashes into the earth with bone-shattering force, the ground buckling under its immense weight. Chiguk stares in pure disbelief, his mind failing to process the raw power of this boss. He didn't even sense the sword swing. The speed was absolutely terrifying. The witness is spiraling, unable to comprehend how that spear move landed so fast. He sees Kim Chiguk as a divine being, a literal god of combat. Wait, the realization hits him like a physical blow to the chest. He's staring at the carcass, wondering how anyone could slice a beast like that. If he's caught witnessing this, he knows he's as good as dead. Panic takes over. He's convinced his life is forfeit if he stays here. He bolts for the exit, desperate to escape this nightmare before he's discovered. Chef senses the presence vanish, genuinely disappointed he can't share his cooking now. No gear dropped, but he's holding the glowing Wilderness Guardian core, a massive win. The sprite is losing her mind over the incredible marbling on the fresh monster meat. She's convinced this isn't just high quality, it's a top-tier culinary treasure from the dungeon. Chef remains stoic, his mind already locked onto his duty to satisfy a hungry soul. He notes the time. They can't just sit around for 6 hours waiting for the gate. Chiguk is annoyed, holding a useless bone and lamenting that Chef took the valuable core. Wait, he realizes Chef might actually share his cooking, and the core could be the secret ingredient. Chiguk is suddenly grinning, praying that this dish will grant him another insane stat-boosting effect. But then he remembers the last meal. His face turns pale as he anticipates the culinary torture. He's torn between the massive value of the core and the literal taste of hell. Chiguk begs him to stop, but Chef is already plotting his next horrific, delicious masterpiece. Chef swings his sword with surgical precision, carving the monster meat into perfect portions. The system pings rapidly as the high-quality ingredients are processed for his next dish. Kim Chiguk stares in pure, unadulterated dread, knowing exactly what kind of treat comes next. Chef beams with a terrifyingly bright, innocent smile, asking if the instructor is excited. Chiguk breaks down in silent, tearful misery, wishing he could just escape this culinary nightmare.